In this episode of Travelogue, join me as I head to the famous 海螺沟 Glacier Park at the foot of Sichuan's highest mountain, Gongga. I'll brave the elements and the crowds to show you everything there is to see here. So stay tuned. Welcome to Sichuan. You know, in ancient times there used to be a saying that the road to Sichuan is more difficult than the road to heaven. But these days it's slightly easier. You can just grab a plane straight to Chengdu. But still, we've got a long way to go. We're going to head towards Hailuogou, which is the best place to view the king of mountains, Gongga Mountain. And from there, the realm it rules over. The Hailuogou Glacier Park lies in Sichuan, one of China's most earthquake-prone but beautiful provinces. It's a popular retreat for those living in Sichuan's capital, Chengdu, which is just a 3-hour flight away from Beijing. Actually, most people coming from the airport and going straight to Hailuogou get a long-distance bus from the city, which takes about 8 hours, and they only have one per day. So if you have a lot of people, it actually works out a lot more convenient to hire a van, because it takes you there about half the time. Located in southwest China, Sichuan is a land of rough beauty and jagged mountains, carved out by countless tectonic movements. I'm heading up into the mountains, but first I have to go through them. You know, it's amazing, it's beautiful here. All it took was 10 minutes in the tunnel and everything's changed. When we were on the other side, it was all very misty, you could barely see anything, and now you have clear, crisp skies, beautiful little villages at the foot of the mountains. We're going as far as we can up, so hopefully there'll be more changes later on. Contrary to what I've heard, the road conditions actually seem pretty good, for now. Okay, so this is where the highway ends. You know, I said before that the road to Sichuan was difficult. The Yasi Highway is not a very good example. It was actually built in 2012, but before then you actually had to go over the mountain, and that took twice as long and was really dangerous, especially when it snowed, because you get landslides. But now is where the mountain road really starts, so fingers crossed. It doesn't look very dangerous yet, but from here the road gets rougher and narrower. What should have been a 4-hour journey ends up taking us 6 hours, and we arrive at our gateway, Morsey Town, with aching backs and sore bums. Okay, well it's pretty late, and I reckon it's time to get some rest. Luckily though, before I came here, I looked online and booked a hotel, and this one came highly recommended for the views on the upper floor, so time to check in. Hey, 你好，你好，我订的楼上的房间。啊，对，307。哎，好，谢谢。Oh wow, nice.
就这间。啊，
哦，太好了。
晚上你就住这间床嘛。哎，好。啊，这间床上可以，睡到床上可以直接看日照金山，明天早上。哦，就从这里。天气好的话啊，嚯，就从这里可以直接看日照金山。哎，那您觉得我明天有戏吗？有戏，有戏。今天晚上天气比较好，明天能看到，就在对面，睡到床上就能直接看日照金山。太棒了！哎，就是你住这里啊，可以免费。
There are a lot of hostels in town, but I chose this one, the Muwu Hostel, because it was built the traditional way. Every piece of lumber used in its construction was slotted or stacked in place. Not a single nail was used. But its greatest draw is its room with a view. It's really early in the morning, 5 o'clock to be exact, and I know I've got a really good view from my room, but I heard there's an even better view, so I'm going to set off now to catch the sunrise. The sunrise is around 6:30 here, so you need to leave at least 1 hour in advance because it's 30 kilometers to the number 3 campsite where you get the best views of the sunrise over Gongan Mountains. But it's also why you probably want a hired van because no one else is going to get you up at this time of day. And it's also a pretty dangerous winding road, so you want an experienced hand for this. Oh. You know, we're so lucky today. Usually we have to fight for space with other photographers, but today there's not so many. And just look at it, the mountains out in full splendour. What a sight. You know, people come from all over China 365 days around the year, every morning sometimes, just to get this view. I can totally understand why it's a sacred mountain. When the sunlight shines that kind of golden glaze over the top of the mountain, it looks like a golden halo, and it's just majestic.
This viewing platform is on the way to the number 3 campsite. It's famous for its view of the 日照金山, the golden light of sunrise spreading across the mountain. Coming up next, I make my way to the top of the glacier in style, visit some of Hailuogou's alternative offerings, and bite off more than I can chew of the local delicacy. In this episode of Travelogue, join me as I head to the famous Hailuogou Glacier Park at the foot of Sichuan's highest mountain, Gongan. I'll brave the elements and the crowds to show you everything there is to see here. So stay tuned. Once you've taken in enough of the surroundings, continue up to the number 3 campsite. If you left early enough to catch the sunrise, you'll likely be the first person here. And the first person in the queue.
So if you don't have your own form of transport, you can grab these shuttle buses that start operating at 7 in the morning, and they operate within the entire Hailuogou Glacier Park. And right now they've taken everyone up to the number 3 camp. From here you grab a ticket and you take the cable car right to the top, where you'll get a fantastic view of the summit of Gongan Mountain.
You'd be forgiven for thinking you've come here to ski, especially with the toasty Doppelmayr chairlifts gliding up and down the mountains.
You know, a lot of people enjoy mountain climbing, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but honestly, for me, it's a lot more comfortable to take one of these cushy chairlifts all the way to the top. I mean, yeah, it does cost 150 kwai, but still, you can get there in 20 minutes, whereas if you walk all the way to the number 4th base camp, that's going to take you 2 hours, and you don't get this fantastic view. So it might be a bit daunting to look down, but below there is a glacial moraine, so like rubble and debris and stuff left from the retreat of glaciers up the mountain. But that's because Hailuogou is not just famous for its views of Gongan Mountain, but also its glaciers, of which there are many, and we're actually passing everyone right now on our way to the top. Oh yes, this has got to be the best viewing platform of the glacier. Look at that! It's massive, right? This glacier is 1,000 meters long and 1,000 meters tall, and it's made of several parts, right? So at the top you have this kind of snow and ice bank, and when there's a build-up at the top, it overflows and it goes downhill, causing a kind of ice cascade, a frozen waterfall that flows along the middle, and then at the bottom here you have the glacial tongue, and that just goes all the way down into the valley. But if you look down there, you can actually see people trekking amongst the moraine, so gotta get on that. 您是第一次来吗？
我们也是第一次来。
那真不错，咱们运气都挺好的。您觉得怎么样？见过雪山吗？
没有。
没有。哇，那激动的要命。
激动的要命。我们运气多好，我们昨天在叶子沟，哎呀，多好啊！
看到了。看到了
蓝天，看到了这个山顶还。
看山顶也看。
哎，看到了。
下回来是不是要爬了？
年纪太大。
年纪太大就算了。
这个拍个远景，再拍个远景可以吧？
You know, I noticed, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from, how old you are, what language you speak, what country you're from. When you see this kind of sight, just everyone from the bottom of their heart, you know, they laugh from the bottom of their heart. It's this excitement that you get just from seeing something this beautiful. And if we can get the clouds to disperse and see the tip of the summit, that would be perfect.
At 16 million years old, this massive glacier is relatively young for its size. On a good day, you can even see the imposing Gonga mountain towering over it. Over spring and summer, the glacier sees up to 1,000 avalanches a day. But not to worry, the glacial tongue is safe to climb.
Don't think there's anywhere else in the world, or maybe in China, that you can get so close to glaciers. And you want to keep stopping and looking at the glacier, but it's actually quite slippery, so you've got to keep your eyes on the ground.
Just remember to bring sunglasses, as it's easy to go snowblind here. Also, there are no set trekking routes or fenced off areas, so you must look after your own safety.
It's like a winter wonderland. I mean, I never in my life thought I'd be on a glacier, you know, but even now, if you look over there, those jagged edges, they look like shark's teeth, right? If you go over there and look down, it's just an abyss. It goes just pitch black right down. So, like, you know, of course you can climb the glacial moraine, but you've got to be really careful. It's nice to conquer nature and all that, but at the end of the day, we're just this small. You've got to be working with nature on this one. I've always wanted to do that. Oh God. I think some went into my underwear. The angel of Turan, forever protecting this mountain. The Haloga's got a pretty diverse ecosystem. Besides the glacier and the Gonga mountain it's famous for, it also has a really diverse range of forests. And they opened a new trekking route in 2012 that takes you through some really ancient forests. So people who are more interested in greenery can also take this route. Hey, well, this is nice. I mean, the glacier was fantastic and all, but the altitude's a bit high. My head was starting to hurt a little bit. I was a bit out of breath, but really nice to take a gentle little stroll through this route. It's really relaxing.
Originally, Halogo was the valley of a meltwater river running off the eastern side of the Gonga mountain. Thanks to its unique ecosystem, the valley has 7 climate zones. All that means for us is that down here we're able to see trees, leaves and plants from spring, summer and autumn, while further up we get to enjoy the alpine scenery of winter. Convenient for the budding photographer or traveller who can't always get time off work to travel when they want.
Oh, I'm so hungry. We've been trekking the entire day across glaciers and forests, and all we had to eat was yak jerky. So I figured dinner should be decent, right? So I've come to this restaurant, which is probably the most famous restaurant in Hailuogo. In Sichuan, they have this kind of special food called 9 big bowls. I don't know what that is, but they eat it for festivities. And here in Hailuogo, they have their own twist on things. And I figured today's, of course, a celebration. Oh, what an amazing spread. Alright, let me give you guys a bit of a rundown. That is bean jelly. That's glutinous rice right there. That's pork, wild vegetables, beans with potatoes, stewed pork again. Then we've got a bean and wild vegetable soup. And this is a pork shoulder. So there are only 2 pork shoulders on a pig, right? So it's usually given at special occasions like weddings, and they're given to the 2 most important people, usually the groom's parents and the bride's parents. If they don't get this, they'll get really angry. But the pièce de résistance is this. It's called Golden Light Over the Mountain because it looks like a mountain and it's a bit yellow. But this is really auspicious, and when people get this dish, they will go and fight for it, because the more you eat, the more lucky you become. But everyone's hungry, so I won't keep anyone waiting. Chama!
Coming up next, I'll walk in the footsteps of a playboy religious leader, discover alien life high up in the mountains, and give you the insider scoop on a former one-horse town.
So we're heading to a place called Yajiagang to see the Lake of Love, which is famous because the 6th Dalai Lama wrote a load of love poems about the place in around the 18th century. And with the fog we're having now, who knows, maybe it'll become a bit more romantic.
We're deviating from the normal route and going straight up to the lake as there's less chance of fog in the morning.
We've driven 37 kilometers from Morsi town to get here, and now we have to walk for an hour to get to the Lake of Love, which is going to be even further up. And now that we're at 3,500 meters above sea level, it might be a bit of a difficult trek.
To get to the Lake of Love, you need to walk for an hour through this wonderful land of snow. It's perfectly fine to admire your surroundings, but don't forget to watch where you're going, as the ground here is very slippery with all the snow and ice.
Yeah, when you're walking here, it's just so peaceful. All you hear is the sound of the snow crunching underneath your foot, and just the sound of snow melting on the trees. No wonder they wrote love poems about this place.
The most famous writer of love poems in Tibetan history was ironically someone who really shouldn't have been writing them, the 6th Dalai Lama. Local legend goes that it was at this lake where he composed many of his love songs and poems. He was a controversial Dalai, preferring to spend his time drinking, hanging out with his mates and having his way with the ladies. All in all, quite blasphemous. And yet, the general populace loved him. Some say he was a genius, as he disguised his love for the Buddha in love poems that any layman could understand. Whatever the truth, today his works are still wildly popular across the region.
Well, it's a shame. We waited for ages for the fog to disperse, but no such luck. Here on a clear day, you could see all the way to the snow-capped mountains over there, which is probably why the 6th Dalai Lama wrote so many love poems. Also, teenagers come here to elope, but probably the reason the fog isn't dispersing is because I'm here by myself and got a bunch of smelly guy camera crew here with me. Yeah.
If the lake hasn't kindled any romance in you, head down to Hongshutan, which loosely translates to Red Rock Bay. In fact, we passed by it when we drove up to the lake.
I know what you're thinking. What is all this red stuff? You know, actually, this is one of the other reasons that people come here to Yajiago. This red stuff, it's not blood, and it's not rust, it's alive. This is actually a kind of moss/algae that lives in high altitude areas where the air is nice and fresh. And when you touch it, it rubs off orange on your finger. But if you take it away from this climate, then it turns black like that. So it's an indication of just how clean and fresh this place is.
If you do come down to the riverbed, take care not to step on the red algae. Not only are they very slippery, they're also a primitive life form. The algae thrive on the fresh air and manganese-rich glacial waters that feed this valley. But the real reason they're red is because they're rich in a substance that protects them from the strong ultraviolet rays experienced at these altitudes. A bit like how we get tanned when we're under the sun. As for me, it's time to head back to town.
Hey, 王师傅，您在木樨镇待了多久了呀？20年了。20年了，哇，原来什么样子？
原来这里全部是那个农田嘛，这条街都是农田。
哦。
现在靠旅游嘛。
都靠旅游。
都围绕着旅游在生活。
那咱们这里年轻人都在哪儿呢？
年轻人基本上都还是留在当地的。
咱们这儿年轻人都在。对，
我们这里人口本身就少，然后它发展旅游需要很多人。所以原来很多有些年轻人出外打工，现在全部基本上人都回来了。
The way I see it, tourism's done Morsi Town a lot of good by bringing the younger generation back, since young people leaving is a problem that plagues many mountainous towns.
So this is Morsi Town, and it's kind of like a base of operations for everyone who comes here to Halogo and the surrounding valleys. But here on the main town, you've got pretty much everything you could ever need. You've got food, you've got places to stay at. You can even buy swimwear if you feel like it. But it's pretty convenient for everyone who comes here.
Now, the reason Morsi Town looks so new and touristy is because it is. Before tourists started coming here, Morsi was a backwater, one-street town. The street I'm walking on literally was the town. Although it's seen a few refurbishments in its time, this old quarter has more or less remained how it used to be. Many of the town's residents still happily live on the street among all the convenience stores, restaurants, guest houses and the occasional bar. Speaking of bars, all the ones in town can be found on this street. If you're looking for a watering hole, I know just the place. This is the number 7 base camp, the first bar in town. Since the locals aren't so big on nightlife, you'll mostly find tourists here. But for them and me, this is more than just a bar. It's a place for travellers to meet and swap stories, write their postcards, leave their mark on the town and reflect on their time spent here.
You know, honestly, I didn't know what to expect when I came here. I looked at a couple of articles online in English about Hailuogao and Mosi town, but the last couple of days have really been an eye-opener for me. I mean, we've seen so much. I've seen autumnal forests, glaciers, red algae-covered rocks, and I've walked through a winter wonderland, and it's just been incredible for me. But I honestly hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of Hailuogao as much as I have been making it. Anyway, I'm Taran. Thanks for watching Travelogue.
Contrary to what I've heard, the road conditions actually seem pretty good. For now.
Okay, so this is where the highway ends. You know, I said before that the road to Sichuan was difficult. The Yasi Highway is not a very good example. It was actually built in 2012, but before then, you actually had to go over the mountain, and that took twice as long and was really dangerous, especially when it snowed, because you get landslides. But now is where the mountain road really starts, so fingers crossed.
It doesn't look very dangerous yet, because it takes you there about half the time. Located in southwest China, Sichuan is a land of rough beauty and jagged mountains, carved out by countless tectonic movements. I'm heading up into the mountains, but first, I have to go through them.
You know, it's amazing, it's beautiful here. All it took was 10 minutes in the tunnel and everything's changed. When we were on the other side, it was all very misty, you could barely see anything, and now you have clear, crisp skies, beautiful little villages at the foot of the mountains. We're going as far as we can up, so hopefully there'll be more changes later on.
Welcome to Sichuan. You know, in ancient times there used to be a saying that the road to Sichuan is more difficult than the road to heaven. But these days it's slightly easier. You can just grab a plane straight to Chengdu. But still, we've got a long way to go. We're going to head towards Hailuogao, which is the best place to view the king of mountains, Gongga Mountain. And from there, the realm it rules over. The Hailuogao Glacier Park lies in Sichuan, one of China's most earthquake-prone but beautiful provinces. It's a popular retreat for those living in Sichuan's capital, Chengdu, which is just a 3-hour flight away from Beijing. Actually, most people coming from the airport and going straight to Hailuogao get a long-distance bus from the city, which takes about 8 hours, and they only have one per day. So if you have a lot of people, it actually works out a lot more convenient to hire a van. In this episode of Travelogue, join me as I head to the famous Hailuogao Glacier Park at the foot of Sichuan's highest mountain, Gongga. I'll brave the elements and the crowds to show you everything there is to see here. So stay tuned.